so that we can keep the members of the chamber informed as to the relevance of these races and see what impact it will have on them. We meet the second Friday of every month at the Panorama 1715 Bistro in the boardroom. And the committee is chaired by Mike Jackson. And just a little bit of information. Mike had a stroke about a week and a half ago. Otherwise, he would be here. But I went up and had lunch with him last Friday. He's recovering well. He's taken his physical therapy very seriously. And he hopes at some point to be back to full speed. Supposedly he's coming home from the rehab hospital tomorrow. So we'll make sure everybody's kept informed as to what's going on. So anyway, our forum this month is going to be a little bit different format. This is the first time we've had both candidates and issues on the same program. So what we're going to run it just a little bit differently. And with that, I'd like to call up Bud Blake, Independent for County Commissioner, Tye Menser, Democrat for County Commissioner, Mayor Andy Ryder, and Mr. Ed Pohl. Those two will speak on the parks issues. So, and while they're making their way up here, is there any other candidates in the room that did not get a chance to get their name and face out in front of the membership? Okay, I guess we do have one person I would like to recognize before we get started, who's a longtime member of the Government Affairs Committee and longtime member of the Chamber, Mr. Virgil Clarkson. Okay, we will start with the Metro Parks District, and we're going to run this a little bit different. We have questions for our commission candidates, but we're going to run the Parks District just a little bit different because we figured there's no way we can ask a question about prejudice one way or the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Andy speak for 2 minutes on the Parks District. Ed will have 2 minutes for rebuttal. We'll go back to Andy for 2 more minutes. Ed will have 2 more minutes for rebuttal. And then we'll open it up for about 3 minutes for questions from the audience. And this is a little bit out of the norm. We normally don't take questions from the audience, but we're going to on this one. So, Ken, you ready to? Ken Balls is going to be our timer, so he'll when your time is up, he'll let you know. Ken, don't mess this up. Okay, Andy, you're on.
You want me to come up here?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me here today. My name is Mayor Andy Ryder. I want to make sure that y'all know I'm speaking on behalf of myself, not representing the City Council, but as a longtime member of this community, born and raised, and a business owner here as well. I think this group knows better than most that community development is economic development. Let me say that one more time. Community development is economic development. The last time the City of Lacey made a major investment in our park system, which is at the backbone of our community, was in 2002. Since then, our population has grown 63%. And the City of Lacey has done a great job of acquiring park property. As a matter of fact, we have over 1,200 acres of park property, approximately 1,200 acres. Unfortunately, 65% of that property is currently undeveloped. Now, the last time we made a major development in our park system, we had a great return on that investment. Rainier Vista was developed. Our regional athletic complex was developed. But now is the time to continue to develop our parks. We're looking at developing the next phase of the regional athletic complex. We're looking to put playground equipment in 5 different parks throughout the City of Lacey. And so we understand that there's never a good time to raise property taxes. But there is a right time to make an investment in our community, and that is this November. We're asking for a very small increase in property tax. We're asking for an authorization of 47 cents per assessed 1,000. That will bring in almost $3 million a year, and it's going to be a great investment for our city. Thank you.
Before Ed comes up, could we get the 2 portable microphones up here for Bud and Tye when they get ready to do theirs? Okay, Ed, come on up.
Thank you. I was pleased to see that I'm noted as retired. That's the most successful I've ever been in a career. I encourage everybody to read the against statement and the ballot. It covers some of what I'm talking about. Lacey has great parks, and we do not need, there's a choice, it's not a choice between parks and no parks, or parks and not developing new parks. What it is a choice between having a separate district with its own debt and tax limits added on to the debt and tax limits of the city of Lacey. Lacey has already has a funded tax department, spends about $2.7 million. It already owns over 1,000 acres of parkland, 62% is undeveloped. What we need is to build family parks, parks in neighborhoods where families, kids can go and play, not large items like sports stadiums, museums, civic centers, and indoor sports facilities. The only reason that the LMPD has any use whatsoever is to increase debt and taxes, and I'll get back to that later.
So the ongoing discussion of how we fund our parks is not something that we just came, rushed at. This has been a long, ongoing conversation within our Parks Board and the City of Lacey. And what we've done is developed a comprehensive parks plan that laid out our current assets and what we need to do to develop our assets in the future. City of Lacey is the fiscal agent of the Regional Athletic Complex. And by all standards, it has been a tremendous success for the City of Lacey and for Thurston County. It has created a sports destination. What we need to do is continue to make investments in assets like that and look at developing the next phase of the RAC. Now, one thing that we've always prided ourselves on in the City of Lacey is being fiscally responsible. It's one thing to build facilities, it's one thing to develop our 65% of our parks land that's undeveloped, but it's the ongoing maintenance and operation that is really the driving cost driver there. And so we need a tool to allow us to continue to reinvest and not just have one-time monies. Like I said, there is never a good time to raise property taxes. I understand this as a business owner, but I look at it as a return on our investment. We all make those decisions when it comes to our businesses, is how much are we willing to invest, and is that investment a good return on our investment? In this, with the Metropolitan Parks District, we're not asking for the full allowed amount, the 75 cents, we're asking for 47 cents per assessed thousand that will give us the best return on our investment going forward for this community. We have great parks, we have a great system. Now let's continue to develop those parks and develop our community for our kids and for our great military families that use our parks as well. Thank you.
As business owners, I'd like to compare this to opening a line of credit that you don't need. The city tax limit rate by law is $3.37.5. Right now, Lacey property tax is $1.13 per thousand. There's plenty of headroom in the city tax so you can increase just city taxes and pay for new items if you want them. There's no need to add another district and another debt and tax authorization on top of that, at least not right now. So what you really want to do is look at what kind of a Lacey do you want. Lacey is never going to be Seattle. It's not gonna be Tacoma. Thank God. What you want is, what Lacey is a bedroom community. It's a family community. It's a place where people live, go to school, raise families. The kind of business that you want in Lacey is clean, high-tech, small to medium businesses that are family and residential oriented. What you want to develop, in addition to parks, is better roads, better access to and from I-5. You want to develop better or newer water, sewer, utilities, and that sort of thing. You need to be innovative in providing infrastructure for small high-tech businesses, small and medium high-tech businesses, to enable those businesses to support in the suburban environment the larger businesses that go on in Seattle and Tacoma.
Thanks to both of you. Now we'll open up, we'll take 3 minutes for questions from the audience. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Mr. Mayor, I saw a disagreement about the figures. Would you be able to allude on that?
So
I'm just trying to get the whole.
So I think that what has argued is that we don't need a separate Metropolitan Park District to pay for this. We can somehow raise our property taxes a different way. I would disagree with that. What this would allow is under our current rate to be able to raise it another 47 cents per assessed thousand, basically doing what he's saying. So that there's no difference in on understanding how much we need to raise to continue to develop our parks in the future. The disagreement whether you do it with the Metropolitan Parks District, that gives you ongoing revenue, or if you do it with a one-time parks bond measure, that's just a flat, amount. That is up for a discussion. What our plan has identified is that in order to meet the needs of future generations, we need an ongoing revenue source, not just one-time monies. And so that's why the majority of the council has put it on the ballot, to go on the ballot for the people to vote on what kind of future we want in Lacey, what kind of park system we want in Lacey, and do we want to have continued investment in our parks to go forward. And the only way you can do that is through a Metropolitan Parks District, which is why Olympia and Delmar has done as well.
Ed, you want to comment on that?
Sure. We're all talking about growth and the growth that we've had and the growth that we anticipate. Growth means additional houses, additional property taxes in houses, additional property taxes in businesses. So your revenue is going to grow as the city grows. Exactly. What you're talking, what the LMPD is an additional authorized tax and debt on top of what is already authorized for cities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've run out of time, so with that, we'll ask that Mayor Ryder and Mr. Paul hang around after if this is over with, and you can approach them with your questions after that. Now we'll get into the county commission candidates. We have independent Bud Blake and Democrat Tye Menser running for the county commission. I'd like to give each of them 1 minute to introduce themselves and why they are running for county commission. Okay, Bud, since you're on my left, you go first.
All right, thank you so much for having me here today. I am Commissioner Bud Blake. I'm asking you for 4 more years of service, dedicated service, because I was here 4 years ago, and we talked about a lot of issues in this county that was plaguing us, and I would talk to you as far as some of them being solved, that we'll talk about here shortly. One's most importantly the Habitat Conservation Plan, otherwise known as the Gopher. I'd like to give you an update where we're on that. 2, the budget is absolutely phenomenal. It's moving in the right direction. As far as getting rid of some of those assets and debt, some of those liabilities and some of those risks, and we're going to move forward with a great revenue in the near future. And 3rd is the public safety. Promise was to get deputies on the road. 4 are on the road as far as law enforcement, 1 is for the school resource officer. We have 7 correctional officers. I love my job, I love doing it for you. I'm asking for 4 more years, let's do it together.
My name is Tye Menser. I'm running as a Democrat for the Board of County Commissioners. I'm a first-time candidate, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have an undergraduate degree in government from Harvard. I have a law degree from UC Berkeley. I've had a 21-year legal career focused on criminal defense. The biggest part of your county's budget is the law and justice system. I work with each piece of that system every day. I spent the biggest part of my legal career in public service as a public defender. I served for 3.5 years on Thurston County's Water Conservancy Board, involving extensive training in Washington's complex water law. I lived for 7 years in rural communities in northern Alaska, and above the Arctic Circle and in the interior, representing indigenous peoples living in those areas. And I understand the challenges that rural communities face. I'm a bluegrass banjo player in the community, 10 years as an Only Mountain Boy, in case you've seen us at the fair or anywhere else in this community. I was raised by 4 public school teachers. My parents divorced when I was 2 and married 2 more teachers. My wife is a kindergarten. I'm always a kindergarten teacher, and I'm a proud father too.
Okay, let's get to the meat of the forum here. First question, and we will alternate who gets to go first on answering these questions. The county has recently been offered a $25,000 law and justice grant subject to cooperation with immigration officials. Should the county accept it, and why or why not? Tye, we'll start with you.
The county should not accept it. This is bad policy. No matter how you feel about immigration, it makes our communities less safe to have these types of policies. If someone is in a domestic violence situation and they're afraid that their children are at risk, they're afraid to call authorities because they're afraid they're going to be turned in for deportation. Our communities are made less safe. This is bad policy. Thurston County should not be cooperating with the federal government's deportation policies through ICE.
Bud?
Yeah, this grant has been part of Thurston County for the last 20 years, and most of the time it's designated towards some sort of automation or some sort of function of the offices of the law and justice as a whole. This particular time it came forward to the county commissioners, to the prosecuting attorney's office, and it was it was at first just reviewed, and then finally it was not accepted. As of yesterday, we did not accept it, and we rejected it, and it's no longer a part of our discussion.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next question. What do you foresee about the pocket gopher issue in Thurston County and its impact on development? And we don't mean Troy's Lacey pocket gopher. Bud, you're on first.
This has been dear to my heart, and this is one of my campaign promises that 4 years ago. I sat down at the table 4 years ago with the federal government, and they literally said to me and the other 2 county commissioners that it cost $151 million, 9,000 acres over 30 years. And 2 years later, when we had a new commission, we had a different story. That's because I was hard and tough on the federal government to negotiate, come to the table and negotiate. Now the current price goes anywhere around $50 to $54 million a year, $54 million over a 30-year period, and 1,000 acre. This is what we're negotiating.
A couple of months ago, it was $15 million, and Mr. Blake had saved the county $135 million. Now it's $55 million. The plan has not been approved, and if it doesn't get approved, our property owners are going to continue to struggle with the pocket gopher issue. We need a habitat conservation plan that gets approved by the federal government. There hasn't been a negotiation. The county is an applicant and had not communicated with U.S. Fish and Wildlife for months prior to the plan going up in July. And so we'll see what happens. I am hopeful that the plan will be approved, but if it's not, we have more delay.
Thank you. Okay, next question. In light of the courts upholding a $12 million judgment against the county, what will you do to ensure the county's fiscal health? Tye, you're on first.
So this has come up, this judgment, and I want to first say that it's been a long time that we had an attorney on the county commission. I think it would be useful. There were mistakes made procedurally that led to that judgment, mistakes that I would not have made, because I think an attorney thinks a particular way about reducing county risk, and that's very important. So now we have a judgment, we have a very strained budget, and we're going to have to look at the biggest area where we spend money, law and justice. That's 7 pieces of the law and justice system. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I want to sit down and work with our prosecutor, our corrections, chief, our sheriff, our public defense office, and the court system, and find efficiencies, cost savings, implement restorative justice approaches. I can talk more about that later if you have questions about it. A ton of ideas there. We will make our communities healthier and safer for less money, get our budget back on track. Bud?
Sure, you don't need a lawyer or a military person, you just need a common sense person, is really what it comes down to. The people that was in commission at the time did not listen to legal advice, and they had overreach, environmental overreach, where they were trying to stop business. And it cost this county almost $12 million. In fact, it was $12 million in the lawyer fees that go along with that. I will tell you the latest of that is that the 9 Supreme Court justices, all 9, not 7 and 2, not 8 and 2, 8 and 1, all 9 said that they were absolutely wrong in their approach and how they handle businesses. And that's super important to me as we sit here in this chamber today with Lacey businesses. I want you to be able to thrive where government is your partner, not adversarial aspect of your life. So that is not going to happen on my watch.
Thank you. Next question. What will you do to help those most in need of mental health help? Bud, you're on first.
Mental health, if I could just caveat that in 30 seconds and say we do great in this nation as far as traveling, and feeding our people, and getting places and doing great stuff, but what we really lack is the mental health aspect, and it's here even in Thurston County. Just imagine bringing that up as far as a piston in the engine and making life go great. Mental health actually tears down a lot of the families, and that's why we find some homeless, all the other issues of unemployment, what have you. We have the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization here in Thurston County. We have 2 new hospitals coming here in Lacey that the county will endorse and support. We think mental health is really the best way to go to be able to take care of our families, our children, especially our children when they're in school age, so they can grow up and be grateful, live a grateful life just as we have.
This is a hugely important issue. 45% of the folks in our jail have a mental health diagnosis. And this is causing problems for the jail structure because it's not built to be a mental health hospital. It's causing problems, a lot of inefficiency and wasted money in the criminal justice system. So this is an important part of a long chain. If we want to fix our budget issues, we have to look at criminal justice. If we want to fix our criminal justice system, we have to look at mental health and substance abuse treatment. And then we start looking, you can't even start mental health treatment without stable housing. So these issues are all connected. They have to be looked at holistically. And that's what I intend to do, and mental health is right there in the middle of what we need to address.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. What is your vision of Thurston County by 2030?
Well, we know we have a ton of people coming in, and we know that Lacey's growing. Lacey's urban growth area is projected to absorb the most amount of people. The projection is 100,000 by 2040. So by 2030, what I want to see is that our leaders have looked ahead, gotten ahead of problems, updated our transportation system, got transportation out to Northeast Lacey, gotten septic systems converted to sewer, so that we're addressing public health and clean water in our Lacey, for example, urban growth area. These are the things we need to be looking that far out. And that's a great question because we have a lot of people coming in by 2030, so this county is going to change, and we have to be ready for it.
Sure, and I take a little bit broader approach. I like being number 1 in anything we ever do together as far as a family, a team, or a community. I want to be number 1 in an economy that we build together. I want to be number 1 in the way we treat each other as far as the people we live and grow together. And I want to be number 1 as far as the environment. They're all 3 kind of touch points with me in terms of where we need to be in 2030. I think we can do it together. And I absolutely love this job and I want to do it again.
Thanks. Describe your leadership style and include how many people you have supervised in your previous jobs. Tye?
Okay. My leadership style is sort of twofold. Very positive, but very hands-on. You know, being negative doesn't really get you very far, but folks need to know that you're there and you're watching and you're engaged and you're communicative. I've never supervised large numbers of people. I did run a public defense office in Northwest Alaska for 3 years, and that's really the main experience that I have being a supervisor, but I've had great supervisors in the course of my career, and so I've learned and thought about what made that person a really tremendous supervisor, and I think those are the key attributes of it.
Sure, I'm a former military man of 25 years, and you have to have a clear problem statement so that everybody knows exactly what we're going after. Once that's understood, what the communication lines are, you have to delegate and trust, and that's what we do here at the county also. We have 7 departments and 21 elected officials. We have to work as a team. You know, we want to go with your mission as far as constituents and what we need to do at the county. From the military, I've had any number of hundreds to 1,000 underneath me in terms of what we do to go around the world to save our Constitution and 27 amendments. My leadership style is really this: is be engaged, be positive, and be trustworthy. I think that's really good in terms of what the complex situations we deal here in the future, and I look forward to doing this for you 4 more years.
The Port of Olympia is a gateway for trade to Thurston County. How can the county help to maintain this and improve on it? Bud?
Absolutely. Port of Olympia plays a historical role, an economic role, and a social role to Thurston County and around the whole region. I think that marine terminal needs to stay there, along with those who work within the Port of Olympia. They provide those jobs that really set the seed for others to be able to be economically feasible. And I look forward to working with the port on many of the other issues that we have here in Thurston County.
I pretty much agree. I mean, the port is, we live in a very unique place. I mean, we're the tip of Puget Sound, and so our marine waters and our Puget Sound environment is part of what makes Thurston County, and Olympia. So it makes sense for emergency reasons, it makes sense for economic reasons to have our marine terminal. I'd like to see it become as economically strong as possible. The port does a good job of taking its resources and delving into other areas that create money and strengthen the port. Any way the county can help that, I'm certainly in favor of.
Okay. We're running out of time here, so we'll have one more question. What is your background in budgeting, and what is the largest budget you have managed? Tye?
Well, a couple of budgets that I've been involved in. Again, I was the head of public defense for the Northwest of Alaska, a state of area bigger than the state of Indiana, although it was very sparse population. But it was 13 villages there, and trying to remember what our total budget was. I don't actually recall, but I did have other experience as a law student. I went to Cal Berkeley, and I sat on the finance committee of the Co-op Association, which might sound kind of flimsy, but that is a multi-million-dollar organization. So had some experience there. Otherwise than that, I've been in private practice and practice of law.
Sure. My budget experience comes again primarily from the military. As you move up in time and rank in the military, you're given amount of budget and you're held to the standards, discipline and budget practices and fiscal responsibility. It's been anywhere from 100 million to 200 million, depending on where you're going in the world, to be able to handle that type of money and those type of issues that go along with that. But the one I left with most of all was the $2 billion one that the 3-star generals entrusted me with a project that got a particular item fleeted throughout the world as far as what they call the Vanguard. That was phenomenal. Be on target with that, and then come home and be able to serve the county and take hold of this budget, and then move it to a budget that works for us, each one of us in the 21st century.
Okay. One final thing, I'm going to give each of you 30 seconds to tell us why the people in this audience should vote for you. Tye, you go first.
I think part of why my pitch of running is that we need to bring balance and critical thinking back to the county commission. I think the county commission, it's only 3 commissioners, and it serves when you have people from different professional backgrounds with different skill sets. We have former military law enforcement officers right now in the county commission, and that's all we have. I could bring a very different life perspective and skill set as an attorney, as a criminal defense attorney specifically. When that is the largest part of the county budget, I'm asking for your vote on November 6th.
Yeah, I just cannot go another time. He said this before, but I am not going to apologize for my military service. I've served for 25 years. I love this country. I want to bring a better economy. I love taking care of people, and mental health is where we need to go. And I absolutely want to do great for the environment, the Salmon Passage, Bud Inlet, and El Inlet. I want to be your next county commissioner. Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes this part of the forum. I would encourage all of the candidates to hang around and talk to the people in the audience, answer any questions they might have. And I thank you all for attending. This is one of our usually best attended forums that showed itself again today.